This is the Elite Entrepreneurs Podcast, where we teach you the proven methods to grow your seven-figure business to 10 million and beyond. Please welcome your host, Brett Gilliland.
Welcome, everyone, to this week's episode of the Elite Entrepreneurs Podcast. We have for you today a special show. I don't normally have two guests at a time. I think I may have once or twice, but today might be the first time that we have a husband and wife business owner dynamic duo, we'll call them. They are Carlos and Marci Hernandez. Their business is called Keepers, and they have a commercial cleaning business in the Phoenix, Arizona area, actually expanding to other areas as well. They can get into that if they'd like, but I'm thrilled to have them as a guest. I've known them for the last, it's probably been 3 or 4 years now, and I've just seen them growing. And I wanted to take some time today to visit with them about two things. One, some of the typical thing that we cover on the show, the 7-figure scaling journey, some of the lessons learned, but then two, the dynamic that is having a husband and wife co-owner situation. And a lot of you out there are married to your business partner or have family members who are in the business, and that just adds another level of complexity. It's a different thing. So I just want to talk about that. So without further ado, welcome Carlos and Marci to the show.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Great to be here.
Excited to have you. Why don't you guys do a better intro of Keepers than I did? Love for Carlos. Why don't you start out? Just tell us a little bit about Keepers, how you guys got started, how long you've been doing this, and then we'll get into some of your lessons learned.
Yeah, so Keepers started in 2008. Previous to that, I was doing commercial insurance, and anyway, the economy took a huge dive, and I was mainly doing insurance for construction companies, and that really wasn't going well. And I had, growing up, my father and my mother, they cleaned offices at night, and they would bring us as their kids to come help them clean these commercial buildings, just a few. And so that always stuck with me, that I knew I could do it. I knew it was, and as time progressed, I knew it was there's obviously a big necessity of people cleaning facilities, keeping facilities nice and clean. And I would tell Marci, hey, Marci, how about this business, that business, and then also, like, how about the cleaning business? And it wasn't, cleaning is kind of a little bit not a very luxury type of industry and things like that. But finally, I convinced her, and we were able to jump in. And basically, I was still doing some insurance, and then trying to get some clients in order to. In fact, some of those clients that were my insurance clients became clients that I would go clean at night. And they could see that, hey, I wanted to get into that. So that was a big help. And then eventually I completely left the insurance, and I would knock on doors almost all day, many hours during the day, and then basically come home and have dinner, and then basically go out at night to like 12, 1, 2 in the morning, cleaning offices and things like that. And that lasted maybe 2, 3 years, until finally we had some stuff, some income underneath our belt, that we could start hiring buildings out and things like that. And that's how, little by little, it's been just, it's like a runway, it's just the planes, just little by little, and that's how it kind of got started.
Okay, so you made a transition from selling insurance to starting up a cleaning company where you were actually doing all of it, selling and delivering the service. Marci, what were some of your thoughts as he was beginning this business?
He's crazy, first of all. I was more of the analytical numbers person, and so I looked at our current mortgage, and I looked at how much he thought we could make per account, and I was like, we could never even find enough customers to make our mortgage. Like, how's this gonna work? And he had a way bigger belief than I did, and he just kept saying, I know this can work, this can work. And so slowly just gained, like you said, those customers a little bit over time, and grew from there.
So at first you were beating the bushes, finding a client here, a client there, and Carlos, you were up at night taking care of the cleaning. Um, Marci, at what point did you decide to jump in full time to helping in the business?
Yeah, I was working, managing a dental office at the time, and I knew that Carlos's skills were sales, being in front of the customer. Obviously, he was fulfillment as well, but he needed some help with like the invoicing, the accounting side of things, the admin side. So early on, I started helping with proposals, helping send out all the invoices, receiving all the payments. So even from the very beginning, that was my role and how I got involved and got started. And then as we grew, our roles just developed from there.
And that's the thing, like initially my intentions was not to have her help out with the business. It's just that she kind of maybe said, hey, I'll send this, I'll do this invoice and I'll do this proposal and things like that. But so luckily she was able to do that, and she's still here doing many things here at the office. So
Doing many things. What does that look like? So in the beginning, Carlos, you were all things customer facing, all the front end, and she was back of the office, right? Back office functions.
yeah.
And that's kind of how it still is today, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
because I'm not a very office type of person. I'm more like I need to be out on the streets, talking to people, pulling doors, knocking this, or nowadays I'm still overseeing like people who set appointments for me either through telemarketing, email, and many other ways. And I'm always like, hey, what's going on here? Why are we low here? Why, good thing here. So we're just always trying to move the needle, and that's what I like to do. So even if I'm here in the office, I'm just pushing to see how can we attract more people for more opportunities so that I can go out there, and now we have other salespeople that help out, and we can just be out there in face to face with people.
And my
Well,
yeah.
go ahead, Marci.
I was just gonna say my role now is more leading the executive team. So the director of marketing, finance, sales, and operations all report to me, and we collaborate. And that's been a huge piece for me to be able to have people that I can help support us in each of those roles. And as we've grown as well, have people that know each of those departments better than me has been really helpful.
So just the two of you 15 years ago, can you believe how much time flies? 15 years ago. And when I met you a few years back, there were probably, I don't know, you probably had 8 or 10 core people, and then you had armies of cleaning companies that helped you do the fulfillment. But like, how many people are working for your core team now, and how many people are out there cleaning businesses every night because you've built this business?
We have about a core of 17 internal staff, and then right now we're estimating that we service about 8 million square feet and over 800 different locations every month. So
Yeah, that's amazing. Congratulations on the growth.
Well, thank you.
All right, well, let's talk a little bit about some of the lessons that you've learned as you've grown, because at first you guys probably were just inundated with all the task level work to make things go. And then as you grew, you started to bring in some people, but now it's tasks and it's people leadership. And at some point, I imagine you started to hit some breaking points in your own ability to like hold it all together. So talk to us about that, and then we'll get into some of the things you learned how to do in order to keep growing.
I think some of the biggest lessons we learned looking back is that we needed people sooner than we got them. Like we grew to a point where we should have hired people sooner than we did, because at that point we were overextended in either ourselves or the people around us were overextended in what they can do and the amount of workload that it was. So I think one thing would be somehow plan for that growth and for your team better than we did, because I think we were always a little bit behind, and then that made it sometimes a little bit tough and stressful to get through those points where we could hire that next person, get them on and up and running before things felt a little bit more smooth.
Yeah, I would say all of that. I would agree with that. But also, like for me, it's being to trust people enough that they can also do a great job at communicating with potential new clients and closing deals and things like that. Sometimes we think, oh, I need to be there. I need to close this deal. I need to be in all facets of contacting or like closing and this and this, and I need to oversee everything and go crazy because these days, organization has grown significantly, and now it's more like, hey, we have good people. We try our very best to hire A+ type of people and basically trust that they're gonna treat the clients well. They're gonna do these walkthrough well. They're gonna assign the right crews to do this. We're gonna follow up well. We're gonna make sure that we have great communication with clients and that they're getting what they believe they should be getting, which they're entitled to, which is a great cleaning. So and if there is complaints down the road, we're going to trust that they're going to be able to fix it. So for me, a big part of it has been to trust people more, that they have the skills, that this is what they've been hired to do, and that they can accomplish what we want them to do and what the client wants them to do.
So, Carlos, could you comment on how you got yourself to a place of believing that other people could? Because I hear that over and over from business owners. It's like I had to trust, and I really had to let go. Sometimes we'll use phrases like relinquish control, right? Like I had to believe that I could relinquish control. Was there anything in particular that helped you believe that somebody else could do it?
Yeah, well, you release or you relieve yourself from certain tasks and you allow them to do it, and then they report back to you, and then in the reporting back, I would realize, wow, they're actually doing it better than perhaps I would do it. And then that's when I thought, well, I just need to do this not only for say one or two people, but just allow them to do it. And yes, they're gonna make mistakes and things are gonna happen, but just let them learn from that mistake and hopefully they'll be better the next time. And that's how we fine tune this. And we're still learning, we're still growing, and there's still growing pains, and there's still, people that we bring in and people, that occasionally there'll be a mistake. But one of our things here is if you make a mistake, you live up to it and you basically, we learn from it.
Yeah, so I love that answer. It's almost like taking baby steps towards fully relinquishing control. It's like you tried it out, right? You said, okay, let me try giving this to somebody, and then it sounds like you were pleasantly surprised to find that went pretty well. And now I see that I can spend my time in other ways. So you started to get more and more comfortable with letting go. I just wonder if there's any shortcut on that, or if you actually have to go through the process of slowly letting more go and realizing, oh, this isn't so bad. We're going to survive this.
For so many years, it was like I did almost a whole bunch of stuff, like the wholesale thing, that it was just kind of me. And then, but now that I can see that, that people do have the skills, then I'm just letting all the people that we have in say my department, my lane, they're just doing what they need to do, and I'm just overseeing the results. And that's been years of me kind of relinquishing that, relieving myself from this, and I wish I would have done this many years ago.
Yeah. Well, I want to use that as a transition to go back to something that Marci said, because she said something similar. I wish we would have done this sooner. Now it was on a different note. So that note was something about, I wish I would have hired people sooner than we did, brought more help in sooner than we did, not just from the relinquishing control standpoint, but maybe from the standpoint of, can we actually afford to bring somebody in? And I think sometimes we as business owners go longer on that path than we need to, because we're like, I don't know if I can afford to bring somebody in. And so we hang on and try to keep doing it ourselves. And we actually limit what we can collectively produce, because there's only so much of us to go around. So, Marci, what would you tell your younger self about the timing of bringing somebody in rather than waiting as long as most of us do?
I would say find a good financial person. It doesn't have to, you don't have to hire a full-time person, even just a fractional person to be able to look at your P&L, to be able to look at your numbers, and they should be able to tell you, yes, you can afford this person at this amount because you're tracking this, or you're at this rate. They can tell you, because like as entrepreneurs, you do a lot of things by your gut, but that's one thing you don't want to get wrong. If you don't want to hire someone and not be able to pay them, or not be able to pay yourselves, or all of a sudden put your business in financial disarray because you made a wrong financial decision. So that's really one you don't want to get wrong. But it's also one, like you said, that you don't want to wait too long for, because if you do, it can put a lot of strain on a lot of people. So I would say find the help you need to be able to get that financial decision and piece down, so that you can confidently make that decision and move forward knowing that you have the financial whereabout to do so.
Well, you guys have done the balancing act really well, whether it was figuring out when it was time to relinquish control, or figuring out when you could actually afford to bring some more help in. I'm not saying you did it without any mistakes, or you couldn't be further along if you'd moved faster. But I'm just saying I've seen the growth, I've seen the progress in both of you, and it's a journey, and you guys are doing it well. I'd love to shift quickly to just talk about the dynamic of being owners of a business together, husband and wife, and what some of the inherent challenges are. Um, I think most of the people who are listening who have that situation already know what the inherent challenges are. So we'll just touch on that briefly. But then I'd like to get to anything that's been helpful for you as you've navigated owning and running a business together.
Um, I'll just say positive to start is I love being able to build this with my partner, because um, I know exactly the highs and the lows. We never have to come home and wonder like, oh, well, I mean, we have different roles and we do different things, but we always can gauge what's going on in the business, and know what's going on. And I love that every work trip is a couples trip that we get to do together. And so I think it can be something that really is an additional bond as a couple to bring us closer. Some of the challenges I think could be just that it never stops because you're together at work and or working together, and then you go home and you're together. And our poor kids probably are so tired of dinner conversations drifting into business pretty much on the daily. So that is one thing that we've tried to say, okay, when we're walking in the door, we're at home, we're with the family, we're with the kids, we're not going to talk about work. It's not always perfect, but it's something that we've tried to intentionally break. And that was one good thing when we did finally move out of our home office, that we could physically remove ourselves from the stuff, the paperwork, the things, and feel like that we were at home and not be working in our home.
I bet that made a huge difference. Just that space separation.
Yeah.
It is still a mental thing that you have to do when you walk through that door, to say, okay, now I'm a family member. I'm a parent. I'm
Yeah.
not, the co-owner. We're not talking about work. So that's cool that you've set up some boundaries. We got her take on that. Carlos, what would you add about either the challenges of working with your spouse, or things that you guys have done intentionally to help make it work?
So definitely at the beginning, as any business, that it was very, very hard, very, very, very hard. And sometimes for me, because you want to grow so rapidly, and you're not very patient, and sometimes issues from, say, work can transfer into how you treat your loved ones at home, And I learned the hard way that I can't go home and bring that stress on the shoulders and, not talk very kindly to, say, my children, because then they don't want to hug you and they don't want to give you a kiss and stuff like that. So you see that in their body language. And this was years ago. So at one point I was like, you know what, I'm not gonna bring that anymore. I'm not gonna bring that garbage into the household. And whether we gained an account or, well, we celebrate the successes, but if we lost an account because of this or that, I'm not gonna bring that tension. So it's almost like once I step into my home and we have family dinner and we're with the kids and stuff, it's all about your school. And I have my girls like dancing and my boys like wrestling, and I'm into that. And I'm talking about this and try and make it very, very. So one of the things that I've learned over the years is don't bring the baggage of work into your home, because they already have a bunch of stuff, and you want it to be a nice, loving environment, and you don't want to cause any tension. So I really try and do my very best to make sure that we split it. The moment I go into the house, it's all of this is over here, and it's family time.
So you got a really strong muscle now in compartmentalizing between work and home, like, and you guys have each other to help make sure that you're both doing that. And Carlos, you talked about the dynamic with kids, which I can relate to. If I bring something heavy from work into my home environment with kids, that's not fun for people. But it's a different relationship with your spouse and with your kids. So let's talk about that for a minute. And let's talk specifically about the occasion. Let's say that occasionally you guys might have a different point of view about how to do something at work. Okay, I imagine you do. How do you guys handle that in your work relationship so that it stays in your work relationship and doesn't spill over into your personal relationship, or how do those boundaries work?
So again, we've learned through a lot of experience that, say, before we would get into these arguments about, and not like massive arguments, just like differences in.
Let's call them disagreements.
Yeah.
Disagreements.
Disagreements, like, hey, no, we should do this. No, let's not hire this person, stuff like that. And we would have those disagreements, but over the years we've realized now we know what lanes we're in. So we try and stay within our lane, and I know that, okay, if this is not turning into a very nice situation or a nice conversation, better said, then we just kind of stop it there, and we'll say, we'll pick that up at work, and maybe involve some other decision makers as well. So we've learned through experience that it's again, and we don't want to bring that tension either here or at home or something. So we just try and keep the peace and discuss things, and if it's her lane, like if we know if it's an office thing, like a software thing, like right now we're looking for a new software, stuff like that. I know that I have my opinions and she has her opinions about what software, but I know that's her lane and she'll make a decision with some other people about what software to use. And I really shouldn't be too much into that conversation because I don't know anything really about that. So.
Okay, so I'm going to draw out a couple of things that you said, and then we'll check in with Marci on this before we wrap up. So I heard you talk about lanes, meaning you guys are very clear on the unique and separate roles that you have in the business. And so
it hasn't always been that way, but we fine-tuned that, and we're still fine-tuning it, but it's better than before.
Yeah, and yeah, we're not claiming perfection here, but I think it's an important point for people to hear, because I know some business owners are like, we run this together, like two in a box kind of thing. And it's extremely difficult in that situation to finally get to decisions in some cases. And so I think it's a best practice actually for you to have separate roles, clearly defined. Carlos, in your case, you go out and you go drum up new business, and Marci deals with the operations and the back office kind of stuff now, right? So you're all in acquisition. She does other things. And so when you say lanes, that just means we have clear roles and responsibilities, and we can give input and valuable input to the other person on their domain. But if there is an agreement a disagreement at some point, the person whose primary responsibility is that has the decision making. The other thing that you said I think is super valuable is that there are other very competent players on the team, and now you have others in the leadership team, and so it's not just the two of you trying to figure it out alone, but you get valuable perspective from other people on your leadership team. So between staying in your lanes, roles and responsibilities, and now other people who can weigh in on those differences, those conversations, that helps you to move forward. Did I miss anything there, Carlos?
No, I think you said it right there. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I'd love to hear Marci's take on that. And then last, if there's anything else you guys want to share before we wrap up.
Yeah, I think Carlos covered it well, but the separation of roles has been really important and key for us. And like he said, having that person own the decision. So if the decision is over something that is my department or something that I'm over, then he can have an opinion, but I have the final say. And likewise for him, he has the final say, even though if I may disagree. We have involved our team. One thing I would add to that I've learned over the years is that as a husband and wife, sometimes you get comfortable and you know each other really well. And so sometimes you may slip into behaviors that are more husband and wife like-ish. But sometimes I would forget that we were in an office setting. So one time, I remember we were in a meeting and Carlos said something I disagreed with, and I rolled my eyes. And I caught myself and I was like, that is not what a partner, a business partner, if he was not my spouse and that was my business partner, that would be disrespectful. And I need to watch and make sure that I'm not slipping into those, something that maybe I might do at home, or the way we talk to each other at home might be different than if we're in an executive team meeting together. Even though we're husband and wife, we have the utmost respect. Even when we disagree, we don't get into those things of like even just eye rolling or things like that. And so knowing and having the utmost respect for each other, even when we disagree, has helped us to maintain that and helped so that it doesn't spill over into things at home, or we're upset later on or whatever that might be. That's been really helpful. And I think also knowing that in the end we both want the same thing, we're both going towards the same goal. Just because we might have difference of opinions of how we think we're going to get there, but knowing in the end we both want the same thing helps to think hey, it's all right, he just thinks differently than I, but we're all still trying to get to the same place. So
Love that. So when I think about what we talked about today, I heard some great lessons about separation, physical ideally, but then if not physical, mental separation between work and family life. Like we're shutting the door on work and we're entering family life. I heard very important conversations about respect for one another that you just talked about, Marci. You guys talked about being in your lane, understanding role clarity, so that hey, when there are differences, this is Carlos's domain, this is Marci's domain, and we do want and respect the other person's perspective. But when we're getting at an impasse, whoever has that responsibility as part of their job in the business is the one that's going to be moving forward. And we're going to take advantage of the fact that there's some very capable people around us to help us when we do have some differences. They can give great perspective and, not like a tiebreaker kind of thing, but help us make decisions that would be best for the business. All of that was super helpful. Thank you for sharing your story. Is there anything else when you think back to, wow, it would have been nice for us to have done this differently? that might be helpful to somebody listening?
I think the biggest thing would be that I've learned from Carlos is, like I said earlier, just his huge belief in being able to achieve goals that I thought were never possible. And so just earlier buy-in that if one of the team members thinks it's possible to get there, like just believe him and then figure out how to make it happen. Because I never thought that we'd be able to be at the numbers we're at today, and it's only because of Carlos's belief that we've been able to achieve these things. So
Well, that's quite a compliment, and not just because he's sitting there. I know you would talk about it that way if he weren't. But uh, Carlos, your belief about what is possible is something I've admired as I've gotten to know you. Is there anything that you want to share as we're parting about that would help other husband and wife business owners figure out the best ways to work together and move forward?
Well, I mean, we could spend a really long time here talking about so many things that we've learned, and but if there's just a few things I could say is, and this is obviously a forum for entrepreneurs, people who are trying to achieve things that and my hats off to each one of you because it is not easy. It's a lot easier to go get an 8 to 5 job, make this much and stuff like that, but I share in your belief that yeah, you can achieve what you're looking for, and I've always thought we dream massively, and we dream massively and we set massive goals, and then it's like one of these speakers said once, like if we don't if we don't plant in the spring, we're not going to harvest in the fall. So in other words, I know here, and we know here that we constantly have to be moving the needle. It's all about obtaining customers, new customers, the new lifeblood, and then taking care of it. So it's about really, really planting the seed, harvesting, and just making things happen. And I'm a true believer in that. And obviously, the number one thing is your relationship with your spouse, with your children. Uh, you know, it's not really worth it, I think, business wise, if you're going to grow here and destroy this over here, because this is way more important than the business, in my point of view. So I think that if you do that, and we're very faith people, we believe in God and Jesus Christ, and we know they're there to help us. So if we do our part, they'll help us, and hopefully we'll continue to progress. And it's not easy, and every day it's every day is kind of like a boxing match. You just have to keep your hands up and you have to keep on working at it. So I'm a true believer in that. If we keep on moving, if we keep on having action, we'll have reaction. If we don't have action, there's no reaction. So constantly moving. That's how you win games. If you look in sports and stuff, the team that most of the time wins is when you have a momentum. You got momentum. You're inching forward. You're passing. You're this, and it's not just about the threes. It's you have to go in. You have to shoot. So and it's like in baseball. It's just the hits. It's not always about the home runs. It's about hits, and then you make it. So I'm a true believer in just keep on moving. When you're tired, keep on moving, and just keep on moving, and then things will happen.
Lots of belief, lots of movement, a lot of action. That's a pretty good recipe. Put your family first.
Yeah.
Your faith it seems like that's important to you. So we love having you on the show. Thank you both. For all of you listening, I hope that you will share, do all the things to make this episode more available to the other 7-figure business owners out there. There are lots of success stories out there. When you come across couples like Carlos and Marci who are doing this together, it's inspiring. And I think they would be the first to say if they can do it, so can you. This is not rocket science, but it is something you can learn and do. So thank you, Carlos and Marci, for being with us today.
And thank you for all your help over all these years. You've been a great part of what's happening here. It's always great to be able to have you as a friend and to give us advice, counseling, because you've been there, you've done that, and you've been a tremendous help. You and your brother and everybody in your organization. Thank you.
We love Elite.
Yeah, thank you both. Okay, keep listening to the Elite Entrepreneurs Podcast. We're going to keep bringing more business owners here to share their stories and keep growing. Don't give up. Keep moving. Like Carlos says, keep moving. Bye for now.
You've been listening to the Elite Entrepreneurs Podcast with your host, Brett Gilliland. Be sure to leave a rating and review wherever you listen to your podcasts. You may also want to visit our website, eliteentrepreneurspodcast.com, to find additional resources to grow your business from 7 figures to 10 million and beyond.